Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. Well, why don't we start off with this? Congratulations to Jordan Love and Ronica Love, I guess, now. I guess they're having a baby girl. So that's fantastic. Happy for them. And now Jordan's got a little bit of extra motivation. You don't want to suck when you got a kid. You know what I mean? That's embarrassing. Nobody wants to be like, hey, check out what dad does. And then you go out there and you suck. And it's like, well, I make a lot of money, so shut up, stupid kid. Nobody wants that. In other news, final injury report. It's doing that thing again, isn't it? A little delayed. All right, anyways, I will try to be cognizant of that. For the Minnesota Vikings, if I could zoom in here. I wish this wasn't so stinking small. We have Gavin Bartholomew is out. I'm going to the website. This is stupid. Gavin Bartholomew is out, their tight end. Also, wide receiver Miles Price, running back Aaron Jones, and tight end TJ Hawkinson. Blake Cashman, Jordan Mason, JJ McCarthy, Brian O'Neill, Levi Drake Rodriguez, Harrison Smith, and that's it, are all good to go. Dwight McLaughlin, cornerback, don't know either, is questionable. As for the Packers' final injury report, out, Donovan Jennings, Nick Neiman, John Williams, and Savion Williams, who's still listed as foot illness. Would have been good to get him in this game. Doubtful, Dontavian Wicks with his concussion, and then questionable is Malik Willis and Zach Tom. Those two are kind of odd to me. When they say questionable, I don't know if that's really relevant. That is to say, I don't think that that's telling us whether or not they have a chance to play. It's more so telling us if they were going to play, they would be questionable. I say that because I have to assume the Packers have made a decision on Zach Tom, and I would be surprised if that decision is he needs to play. We have enough human beings to at least shut down Zach Tom. Now, we don't have any official word on that, but that's just my thinking. In other words, I'm not really thinking, Zach Tom might play. I don't think he's going to play. Just like Jaden Reed is listed as a full participant and is off the, he's full go for the game. Yeah, but he's not going to play. Same with, okay, Jordan. Jordan is on here, full participant, good to go. He's not playing. So a lot of this doesn't super matter, but take it for what it is. And we'll see, because again, the Packers aren't telling us who's playing and who's not outside of Jordan. So I guess we'll have to just wait and see. All right, so why don't we get started with some of the games that we have going on today, I guess, for you. Did a little bit of sleuthing around to see what I could find. Obviously, none of these are of real interest to us. Nothing is of real interest other than potential matchups in the postseason and whatnot. So we don't have to worry about that. However, for those of you looking to put a little money down, it's a tough time of year with the playoffs and everything. Motivation, people sitting, all that kind of stuff. But the two games tomorrow are Carolina and Tampa. Tampa are 2.5-point favorites. And then Seattle and San Francisco, with Seattle being 2.5-point favorites. There's never really a consensus, but there seems to be a heavy lean among the more professional folk on Tampa at -2.5. The people that are against Tampa tend to be looking at them as an undisciplined, unmotivated group. I think the other side of it has to do with sort of the buy low angle because, people are down on them because of how they've looked recently, but they're a better team on paper. They're being undervalued due to some one-score losses and whatnot. It was also brought up that Carolina has lost its last 5 visits to Raymond James Stadium. As for the 49ers and Seattle Seahawks game, the two biggest things that pop up, number one is San Francisco, and number two is to bet the under. As far as the under is concerned, there were comments about the Seattle Seahawks offense.
Someone is at the front door.
Yep, there you go. The Seattle Seahawks offense has been figured out since week 9. And then the other side is a defensive battle with two weary, walking wounded football teams. The thought as far as the San Francisco 49ers are concerned, and many of the picks are not even against the spread, it's just straight money line. They think that the 49ers are going to win the game. Some of the comments are, for example, it's in the 49ers' DNA to win high-stakes games outdoor at home. Kyle Shanahan in the 49ers operation at home. Brock Purdy is 5-0 in home games played January or later. And then trusting Brock Purdy more than Sam Darnold, who has cooled off recently. Brock Purdy, on the other hand, as we saw last week, getting hot. So that's what I got for you for the 2 Saturday games. Why don't we just take an early break here? We'll come back and finish looking at the football game that is upcoming for the Green Bay Packers. All right, so we kind of went through this at least a little bit with some of the players, but I want to go through, talk about some of these guys that we're going to be going up against and see if we can learn a thing or two about a thing or two. So here's what I want to say about McCarthy, because McCarthy presumably is playing, by the way, if I haven't said that. We talked about it yesterday, where he's been bad most of the year. I mean, I thought he actually played pretty well against Chicago. Most people hated on him for it, but I mean, his everything was awful in that first half. He was getting wrecked. He had no time to throw, all that. And then the second half, he came back and he dominated. And I thought, well, the whole game was good when you just remove the parts where he couldn't have done anything physically. But after that, I mean, it was terrible. Well, I should quantify that. After that, he was bad, and then he got hurt, and then he came back, and he remained bad. And then he got hurt again, and then he came back, and he was good, and then he was really good, and then he was dog crap. So, very confusing situation. Now, the reason I kind of wanted to lean into this a little bit is because this is the biggest question for us in terms of, do we have a chance of winning this game? Is McCarthy going to play like dog crap? Because that's at least going to level the playing field a little bit. I mean, probably not. I mean, for being fair, still have a significantly better defense than we do. But anyways, it's hard to 100% pin it down on anything, but most of the stuff, these sort of boilerplate, boring explanation is, well, they worked on tweaking the offense, and then he got really good. And I'm not going to say that didn't happen. Let me grab you some context here if I can find it. This is Ben Gosling. He's a beat writer for the Minnesota Vikings. He says, Kevin O'Connell said Wednesday, this would be December 4th, he wanted to stop focusing on JJ McCarthy's mechanics. McCarthy said Tuesday he's prone to overthinking about them during games. Quote, I would say a lot of the mentality has changed. I was just so focused on doing every rep perfect and making sure every little detail was crossed and checked off. Coach O'Connell and Coach McCown were talking to me about, hey, let's worry about that stuff in the offseason. Go out there, play ball, just execute the play. That's just frees up a lot of space mentally. I'm definitely a natural overthinker. It's not against them. I need to do a better job of compartmentalizing those coaching points and realizing when it's game time. So I think that's sort of the biggest, correlation causation thing, right? There's that comment, boom, he explodes. And again, I'm not going to say there's nothing to that because, he obviously did explode and he did it over a couple games. The biggest issue that I have is sort of threefold. Number one, Washington's pass defense is dog crap. Number two, Dallas's pass defense is dog crap. Number three, against the Giants, he had a 41 passing grade, his worst of the season. So, look, it's we're starting to see a little bit with Caleb Williams where it was like he was stupid and garbage, and then there was a good game, but then he was bad again. And again, it's like the flickering light bulb. It starts to come on more and more as opposed to just being off. Maybe that's a thing. We don't have nearly enough information. But it's definitely not something clicked and now he's good because, again, the last game we saw him play was, at least according to PFF, his worst passing performance of the season, which is saying a whole heck of a lot. Now, the biggest issue I have is that, if you recall, going back about 45 seconds ago, my first 2 points, Washington and Dallas having terrible pass defense, if that's all it takes for McCarthy to look like a really good quarterback, it makes me a little nervous. I think it reminds me a little bit of what I've been saying about the Chicago Bears. They're not talented enough to be this dominant powerhouse that takes out really good teams playing really good football, right? You can beat a bad team or a good team playing bad football, sure. But I guess my concern is if McCarthy does, if the pass blocking holds up, if the run game is operational, if the receivers are more or less running open, I think he has the potential to be a good quarterback, and worse than that, potentially be a very good quarterback. In fact, it's very similar to Caleb Williams, where I think Williams has a lot of flaws, and if you're able to exploit those, if you, for example, force him to throw tight window throws, as opposed to just letting him buy time and find the wide open guys like he does all the freaking time, I don't think he thrives as much with that. But the gap between allowing him to do his thing and how good he is compared to how bad he is when he can't do his thing is pretty massive. And I've been saying for a while, McCarthy reminds me of Caleb or, the Pat Mahomes type of prototype type of player. I know you're not supposed to say Pat Mahomes. I'm not talking, quantitatively, it's qualitatively. I'm talking about his style. But that's also why I don't want to just put everybody into a box of he's bad. Because whenever we do he's bad and then they look good, it's like, well, this must be the worst performance in the history of the world. Well, no, it's not. When I say that they're bad, it means that in aggregate they're bad. But if you look at it individually, there's good and bad performances, a whole range of performances. And that's part of the reason why Packer fans sometimes get so angry about stuff. Can't believe you would lose to a mediocre or bad team. I can't believe you would let a bad player do these things to you. I can't believe a bad person would do. Do you think it's their first time? It's like Harlem Globetrotters. You got the good one and then the bad one, and the good one embarrasses the bad one, and that's it. That's the whole story. It's just not really how that works. So I'm just putting that out there. Bottom line, I don't really know what to expect from JJ McCarthy. We haven't seen a lot. It's year 2. He's endured like 3, 4, 5 injuries already. He's missed a lot of time. He's mostly been bad, but he was really good and then really bad just last minute. And then he was out again, and now he's coming back again. So the amount of variables are exceedingly high to try to make any kind of determination as to what is going to happen here. The only thing I can really point to outside of what we've already talked about is the fact that his previous worst game ever before this last Giants game was Week 12 against the Green Bay Packers. He had a 49.4 passing grade. Now, maybe that was, because it was a different team at that time, but it's not a terrible thing, when you have a defensive coordinator that seemed to at least have some idea how to stop him. Whether or not he's going to be able to get that out of the current group of guys that he has, I don't know, but I think he knows what needs to happen. Then you got the wide receiver group, which is pretty disappointing. If you have Justin Jefferson in fantasy, you know exactly what's disappointing about it. This lack of quarterback, lack of offense thing has severely hurt not just the offense as a whole, the quarterbacks, whatever. It's hurt the receivers, and specifically Justin Jefferson. If you look at Jefferson's first 5 years, his receiving grades were 91, 90, 90, 91, 88. Pretty much a flat line. Slight dip in 2024, surprisingly, actually. But basically just a flat line at 90. This year, it's a 78. Couple things on that. First of all, 78 is not bad. It's good. It's about as good as any of our receivers when they're good, right? I mean, it's solid. It is a number 1 wide receiver type of number, but it's not like a top 10 type of receiver number. Actually, it might not even be a number 1. I don't even know. There's so many good wide receivers. The other points to mention, though, is that weeks 1 through 9 are one thing, and since then are a completely other thing. Weeks 1 through 9, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's call it 6 games of 70 or higher. Weeks 10 through 17, he has 2 The grades are 50, 60, 70, 50, 60, 60, 80, 60. That does not happen to a guy like Justin Jefferson. It just doesn't. Again, the sort of, not necessarily incorrect, but the very lazy analysis here is just, well, it's the quarterback's fault. That's 100% of it. Not necessarily, kind of, but not really. It's not just a matter of he's bad and it's affecting their grades. It may be that he's bad and there are chain effects that cause this, but one of the biggest things has been chemistry and timing. Now, this is in part the quarterback is bad, but not necessarily. It's also just getting into the flow of things. It would be like saying Matthew Golden is bad because he hasn't got into a rhythm with Jordan. It's not really the best way to describe it. It's just an additional flaw in the system, and to some degree, the wide receivers have caught a little bit of flack. For example, and this could be quarterback issues as well, but there have been a lot of drop issues. If you look at Justin Jefferson, his drop rate is at 6.2%. That's the second highest of his career. Jordan Addison is at 14.6%. That is Dontavian Wicks level high. By far, almost 3 times higher than his highest. TJ Hawkinson is at 7.3%. That's the second highest of his career since 2020. Let me rephrase that so there's no confusion on what I'm saying. Second highest of his career, highest since 2020. And this isn't just an outsider's perspective. A lot of Vikings fans, it's not unanimous, obviously, nothing is, but a lot of Vikings fans feel like Justin Jefferson is just not himself. Whether it's, he's just kind of not feeling it or whatever the case is, there's a lot of feeling that the blame goes across multiple avenues, including coaching. So I guess from our perspective, the point here isn't that Justin Jefferson isn't still Justin Jefferson. It's that the machine that is Justin Jefferson is not necessarily still the machine. It's not fully operational. Looking at the running backs with Aaron Jones out, they're going to have Jordan Mason. He's their 2022 UDFA, the younger guy. He is right now their better running back. Grades out better, yards per attempt are better. Currently rushing for 664 yards, 4.6 yards per attempt, 6 touchdowns, 3 fumbles, 81 rushing grade, 3.24 yards after contact. He is playing this week against us. He didn't play last week, though, due to an ankle injury. As always, you have to wonder how healed it is and how much that's going to be able to impact his play. By the way, like anything, when I tell you 4.6 yards per attempt and 81 grade, holy crap, that's scary. He hasn't had a grade 70 or higher since Week 12 against Green Bay last. Also, it was Week 12 against Green Bay last time, so that was actually his only game of 80 or higher was against the Packers. He also only carried the ball 8 times, so it's not exactly a huge sample. Finally, for the offense at left tackle, they got a solid player in Christian Darrisaw. They missed him last year. They also miss him this year. He is on IR. Justin Skule, however you say his name, is Phil. He currently has a 62 pass blocking and 62 run blocking grade, which doesn't sound terrible. However, he has an 89 run blocking game mixed in, which kind of throws everything off. He's kind of vacillates between 40s and 50s as a run block. Pass blocking is also inconsistent, but it's starting to be more consistent. Since week 13, it's been 80, 50, 70, 70, 60. All of that is solid. Prior to that, he had 3 games, which in a small group of games, remember he's a backup, but he had 3 of 6 games of 30s and 40s. So small sample size, is he getting better or is it just a coincidence? I don't really know, but that's why we're good just calling it 60s across the board. At left guard, they've got Donovan Jackson. Donovan is a rookie, first-round pick this year. Like I've said, the NFC North went pretty heavy after trying to build up the trenches. Pretty much everybody followed that. This was the Vikings' big swing in the first round. So far, it hasn't been elite. He's got a 58 run blocking, 63 pass blocking grade. He's only got 4 games of 70 or higher as a pass blocker. He has 1 as a run blocker. So he is average to below average pretty much every game. He had kind of a fluky 19.6 grade against Dallas, but he also had, again, some 70s and 80s. He's okay. At center, I'm expecting Michael Juergens will be the center. He's filling in for Ryan Kelly, who's also on IR. Similarly, these guys are all the same. 58 pass blocking, 65 run block. So just 60s across the board. Then at right guard, they have Will Fries. Will Fries was brought in from Indy. Again, another free agent to try to help and shore up the offensive line situation. He's one of the guys that I don't know if he necessarily duped them, but I think they were expecting more than what they got. He's currently got a 61 pass blocking, 59 run blocking grade. And specifically his pass blocking the last 5 weeks have been kind of appalling. Outside of his Week 15 game, his pass blocking grades have been 48, 40, 40, and 10. And then at right tackle, they have Mr. Brian O'Neill, their one solid offensive lineman that remains. He is, however, 30 years old, and so at some point in the near future, they're going to have to look to try to replace him. Darisaw on the other side, obviously, he's a very good football player, but he's got quite a few injury problems recently, so who knows what's going to become of that. They've got a rookie that hasn't really panned out. He may in the future, but so far, not so much. The interior kind of across the board, just not very good, whether it be because of injuries, age, whatever the case is. It's a very scary and volatile situation. But for our particular game, their right tackle is quite good. Okie doke, let's take a break. We'll come back and look through their defense. We'll be right back. Okay, let's start with their interior defensive line here. Start with the big man, Jonathan Allen. Obviously been around a long time, probably inspires a good amount of fear. Former number 17 overall pick. He is, however, 31 or about to be 31 years old, and it is showing. I probably mentioned this before. Nothing has really changed. I mean, the last time we played them. He was very good through 2022. He started to fall off pretty hard after that. Specifically his run defense, the pass rush is kind of held on. But this year I think is completely fallen off. Last year you could say he did too. But 33 pressures on 401 attempts, 4 sacks, and a 44 run defense grade. His run defense has been down in those dumps for a while. The pass rush is down to a 65 grade, and again, sub 10% and just 4 sacks on the season. He has 1 sack since week 10. So, not the greatest in the world. Then we've got Jalen Redmond. Jalen Redmond is their 2023 UDFA, which by itself is not usually the greatest thing in the world. As a pass rusher, he's a 10% guy, 35 pressures on 360 attempts, so just below 6 sacks, which is fine. His big asset, though, has been run defense. He's actually quite good at that. He has a 73 grade, which is what he had last year, especially given the fact that he's a UDFA is actually pretty impressive, especially also since he is a 291-pound interior, defensive end, 3-4 defensive end, and presumably was brought in to be a pass rusher. But, he's holding his own. The actual guy on the inside is Javon Hargrave. Javon Hargrave is another old guy that they brought in, which is Minnesota's favorite thing to do. Spent a lot of time with Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, San Francisco. He is now 32 going on 33. He has a 57 run defense grade as their 305-pound nose tackle. He's pretty small for a nose tackle, but he is. The pass rush grade and the pass rush is not bad. It's bad if you don't like Rashawn Gary. Put it that. He has 4 sacks on the season. He has 5 sacks these last 2 years. I'm cheating a little bit because he was hurt last year, but he hasn't seen double-digit sacks since his final year with Philly in 2020. But He has a 71 pass rush grade and 31 pressures on 284. Now, the grade is a little deceiving. He only has 2 games, 3 games, I guess, of 70 or higher. Week 1, week 5, and then this past week 7. He's pretty much every week at about a, but still an above 10% pass rush guy, 71 overall pass rush. The 4 sacks, also not super inspiring. That's their interior. We've certainly faced better. We've certainly faced worse. Looking at their edge rushers, they've got former, again, 17 overall selection, Dallas Turner. This is a guy that I really thought, as much as I like to talk crap about the Vikings, not that I really liked his tape, but just based on his measurables and whatnot, I thought that this guy was going to pop. And he still could, but so far it hasn't really panned out. His rookie year, he had a 64 grade. This year, so far, he has a 65 grade. His pass rush actually has gone up quite a bit, but overall, not quite as much. It jumped from a 55 to a 68, which is a pretty sizable jump. He also has 40 pressures and 7 sacks on 277 attempts, which is solid. He still seems very volatile. His, he's got 50, 60, 56, doing all that thing, and then 70, and then 50, 60, 50, and then 70, and then 80, and then he does it, and then like almost a 90 this past week. So there's a lot of potential in there. It hasn't quite stuck and been very consistent. But again, 40 pressures and 7 sacks on 277 attempts. Those are good numbers. He is their leading player in terms of snaps taken so far this year for varying reasons, but that's, start with him. After that, we've got Andrew Van Ginkel. Andrew Van Ginkel, another 31-year-old dude, spent a lot of time in Miami last couple of years in Minnesota. He has a 55 run defense grade, 66 pass rush, 25 pressures, and 8 sacks on 164 attempts. That's actually really impressive. I mean, the grades are not there. Probably a lot of the credit would go to the defensive coordinator scheming some stuff, would be my guess. But the numbers, again, are considering he missed as much time as he did to be potentially, hopefully not, but if he gets 2 sacks like he did last, he could be a double-digit sack. Having missed week 2, weeks 4 through 8, I think that's it. But that's a he missed 5 games, and he still potentially could get to in or around 10 sacks. That would be. The third guy is Jonathan Grenard, former Houston Texan. He's also pushing 30 at this point. Again, the numbers are the sack numbers are not, but the numbers and the grades and whatnot look good. 78 pass rush grade, very up and down, but 78 overall. 47 pressures on 270 attempts is solid, but just 4 sacks. So again, it's kind of Rashawn Gary good. The other asset here with Grenard, who's a little bit of a bigger dude at like 265, 78 run defense grade. So again, like everything, inconsistent, but overall it's an asset. Then at linebacker, we got a familiar face, Eric Wilson. Wilson is performing about as well as he did for the Packers last year. Last year for us, he had a 64 grade, right now 63. He has a 74 run defense grade, 51 tackling, 39.9 coverage is bad. It's never really been his strong suit, but that's rough. He's allowed 338 yards on 36 attempts, 1 touchdown, 100.9 passer rating. The numbers aren't horrific, but apparently that is a massive liability. But run defense, which I think we've seen from him, is going quite well this year. Also, as I'm sure we all remember, good special teamer. Why did we let him go? 31 years old. The Vikings decided they didn't want him until he turned 30, and then they're like, we got to get that guy back. I just freaking love that guy. The other inside linebacker is Blake Cashman. Another guy they did not draft. He's on his 3rd team with Minnesota. He is going to be 30 in the next coming months here. But, again, solid run defender, not a good cover guy. 77 run defense grade, 82 tackling grade, 49.7 coverage. So, running the ball, probably going to be tough. Passing, also probably going to be tough because you got good pass rushers and a good defensive coordinator that can scheme the rushers and all that kind of stuff. So, it's a good defense, and we know that. We know that coming. You got edge rushers that can run defend. You got defensive tackles that can run defend. You got 2 linebackers that are really good at run defense. When it comes to passing, you've got interior and exterior guys that are, not to mention the linebackers, can do and do. 113 pass rush attempts from Blake Cashman, who missed weeks 2 through 6, just to give you an idea of the amount of time these guys spend blitzing. Eric Wilson, 174 pass rush attempts. 174. That's a lot. That's more than Andrew Van Ginkel, by the way. More pass rush attempts than Andrew Van Ginkel. He played one more game and has, however many. So he's pass rushing as much as Van Ginkel, basically. Then at corner, they've got Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy is their CB1 / slot corner, kind of their versatile piece that they can move around. Despite the title, not massively successful as of now. He spent 4 years in Arizona. He's in his 3rd year with Minnesota. Only 28, so he's a baby for Minnesota. But former second-round pick out of Washington has a 58 coverage grade, which is pretty standard for him. He had one good year last year, kind of a fluky thing, and he's right back to where he was at a 58 the year before. 59 run defense, 50 tackling, so not a massive amount of value really anywhere. I'm guessing just kind of across the board. 58 is basically average, so I guess you take it. Certainly not what you want in a CB1, but not a liability, I guess, would be the main thing. Isaiah Rodgers is their solid CB2. He has a 73 coverage grade, and a lot of that has started since week 11. He was kind of terrible up through then. He had a 99 grade against Cincinnati, which is ridiculous. But otherwise, it was 49, 53, 57, 61, 27, 59, 47, 56. All basically 50s and 60s. And a 40. 2 40s and a 20. Whatever. Bad. Since then, though, since week 11 against Chicago, 70, 60, 60, 70, 70, 80, 63. His lowest grade was against Seattle week 13, 63.2. So above average. So he's been playing much better football. I don't know and don't super care to look it up because he's playing at a level that he kind of has been. I don't know why he can't stick on a football team. If it's injury issues or what, but he spent 3 years in Indy. Never played more than like 500-ish snaps, which is about a half a season for a typical guy. I don't know if he's, again, backup or injuries. But his grades were 85, 72, and 82, which is really good. Then he was in Philly, had an 83 run defense grade and a 71 coverage grade. They let him go. He goes to Minnesota. He has a 73 grade. I don't know. I don't know the backstory. And again, I could look it up. I don't care. And it's 10:30 at night, and I'm tired. I'm good on that. But he's a solid football player. The CB3, and this would more or less be the guy that would kind of rotate in when you need that third guy. He doesn't go to the slot. He would be the outside boundary guy, as, again, Byron typically would go in. But right now it's Fabian Moreau, 32 years old, obviously. Spent a bunch of time at Washington, then went to Atlanta with the Giants, with Denver, and now his second year with Minnesota. This is his first year ever having a good grade in coverage, currently a 70 coverage grade, 68 run defense. I think the thing right now that kind of scares you about Minnesota is you're seeing guys having years that they've kind of never had. Not everybody, but there's a couple. There's also a handful of guys that are starting to around the time that, as I said yesterday, you're seeing the defense, not massively, but a little bit start to get better and better and better. It's too late for them, and it's unfortunate for them that it got such a late start and they have such an inept offense. But it's kind of got the makings right now of, when defenses have that 1 year where everything's just working and everybody's having their best year and it's just this elite defense. it seems like it's a little too slow, a little bit too late, and a little bit just, again, too bad of an offense for it to have made any kind of a difference. But there was potential here. Not to say they can't do it next year, but, you got to get rid of half your defense because they're all old, and you're going to have to rebuild it and get new guys in. Plus, you're probably going to lose your defensive coordinator, who's going to most likely get hired away somewhere else. I mean, he does have a lot of issues, kind of personality. I don't know if anybody's going to want to take him on, but presumably somebody will, because at the end of the day, his talent will probably exceed any concerns they may have of, is this guy going to sue me when we fire him in 3-4 years? Just takes one. Although, more than likely, there will be other candidates, and they would prefer to go in that direction. And then when he doesn't get hired, then there'll be allegations and all that kind of stuff, and that'll be good off-season content. And then at safety, they've got the 37-year-old Harrison Smith. He kind of peaked in, 2017. His first big, fall-off was probably around 2020. His next big fall-off was around 2022. When he started hitting the 60s, and he's been in that range ever since, 68, 68, 67, 67. It's a very slow, painful death. And actually, it's a lot worse than that because he has an 82, a 90, and an 80. The rest are 60, 50, 60, 40, 60, 30, 50, 50, 60, 60, 50. So almost every game is so it looks better than it is. But 61 run defense, 67 coverage, and the coverage is very similar to the overall. There's been 3 good games, and the rest is kind of. Then you've got Jay Ward, 2023 4th-round pick by the Vikings, actual homegrown talent. Who'd have 25-year-old homegrown mid-round pick? That's. But he's got a very deceiving 70 grade, 72 run defense, 68. I don't know how his grade is that high with 3 good games and a bunch of bad games, such as the tackling and pass rush are quite bad, 48 and 40. He also hasn't really, that's probably why his grade is so high, because he hasn't really started since the last 2 weeks, where he had a 68 and a 78 the last 2 weeks as a actual starter. Again, I can look it up, but I don't know exactly what caused the switch, but they've kind of thrust him more into the starter role and seemingly kind of moved Theo Jackson maybe back a touch, although he's still getting solid snaps. It's kind of a 3-headed monster that they're working through. Theo Jackson, by the way, a 6th-round pick in 2022 out of Minnesota, 66 grade, 62 run defense, 68 pass rush, 65 coverage. So there you go. All right, I'm getting out of here. You all have a great rest of your day. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.